our recommendations. So moving to recommendations, it's nice of Tiff to leave me to give you the positives on the go forward. One more story. Tiff was very wise in his other hat as dean, and we invited a series of our academic colleagues here at the school to a meeting, and we said, so we're going to be doing a paper on clusters. After all of your years of research, what recommendations would you have? And one of them said, we've been studying clusters for about 30 years, and our number one finding is that we need to do more study. And I said to Tiff, number one, that's an awesome business model. I really missed out on my calling. And number two, that's going to be a terrible slide. We need to think about this more. So some of the recommendations we came up with, that the province needs to have a clear and integrated cluster strategy. And what do we mean by that? Going back to some of the things that the government, I guess, in a very Canadian way, should not do. We looked at some of the things like subsidies, trying to create or recreate clusters from around the world. This is one of the few places where if you build it, they may not come. So occasionally start to allow those factors to happen on the ground and then provide the platform upon which any cluster can succeed. What government is really quite good at is providing infrastructure, information, communicating, forming and forcing partnerships, and its ability to convene. So they are there to provide the foundational elements to form a healthy cluster. Improving regional data. On this front, a comprehensive cluster strategy is incomplete without the robust data. The CMA data on business and wages by 6-digit NAICS, for those of you who are wonks, is required. We, as researchers, are obviously incredibly pleased, and we think we played a little bit of a role in making sure that the long-form census and Stats Canada remains a strong player here in the country and providing us with the data we need. But there's a need for more of that, and government can play a role in that, and we need more of that. Investing in inputs, particularly physical infrastructure. Educational institutions, not only for the research that they provide, but the skilled labor that they bring forward to the market. And supporting advanced degree holders with additional training and soft skills is one of the areas that obviously the skills gap seems to be something that we are all starting to think about and talk about. Obviously, Minister Matthews has achieved a new role with a lofty title, and it sounds like it's one of the things that's going to tackle the skills gap, and something that we're looking forward to working with interest at the ICP. And then lastly, as I said, government can get out of the business of venture capital, at least retract itself a little bit to allow the private sector to play a greater role. Promoting cluster initiatives and strategic marketing. It's often, I was at a trade event one time in China, and there were missions from Vaughan, King City, Richmond Hill, Toronto, all there at different booths. And while this is a small thing, the Chinese make no distinction between Vaughan, Richmond Hill, King City, and Toronto. We're not big enough to have the provincial nature sometimes of our country and of our province. We need to find ways to work together. We are only some 13 million people, and when we're competing against the world, having more strategic initiatives, having more marketing that focuses on all of our assets as a province is going to be necessary. We would also argue the need for greater partnerships through conferences, through information sharing. It turns out that one of the things that we're quite good at in this province, two things. We're really good at having government-business interaction. We're quite good at having academic business interaction. We're not great at business-to-business. It's something that government could possibly help facilitate, working with trade associations, working with chambers of commerce. Leveraging partnerships with other regions. Many of you may not know, but our Great Lakes Partners is an organization that is really starting to grow and really makes a lot of sense. Values-wise, economically, trading partners with Michigan, Illinois, Quebec, Ontario. There's an opportunity there to really start to grow. And then also partnerships in larger macro areas, for example, the Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo to Toronto corridor. And this has to be more than someone yelling out, we need a high-speed train between Kitchener, Waterloo, and Toronto. That would be wonderful, but currently I can't get a subway from Bloor West Village to St. George in a rapid-speed train. So we'll take baby steps on the transit file. And then lastly, loosen restrictions on foreign direct investment. Canada currently ranks as the most restrictive among G7 countries in terms of FDI, especially on approval and screening and access equity. Research has found that lowering Canada's restrictiveness index to the OECD average So not calling for us to be the leaders or least restrictive, but the average would increase our labor productivity by 0.8% and create an additional 140,000 jobs. So I leave you with the uncompelling T-shirt of "Let's be average" on FDI. But with that, I'll encourage Tiff to come back on stage. Thank you for your time, and we're happy to take your questions.